One of the most surprising realizations when getting into One Piece is how absolutely horrifying the setting is. And this is surprising because the most pervasive tone of One Piece is joy, connection, and adventure. But that portion of One Piece sticks out almost entirely because we follow the future King of the Pirates, Monkey D. Luffy. So a massive portion of One Piece involves watching Luffy interact, observe, and react to horrifying, oppressive realities. And how does Luffy react to the structures and ideas that uphold the deep, nihilistic cynicism of the world? Well, he destroys it. He destroys that structure, but what if his entire journey is ultimately to destroy the root of the oppression? To destroy the cage that denies everyone their liberation? And why would Luffy want to liberate the world if he also deeply desires to be the most free person in the world? Well, that is because Luffy knows that the world is not free. If anyone is not free, then no one is free. Like Maya Angelou has said, you only are free when you realize you belong nowhere. Freedom is when you realize you belong everywhere. The price for this freedom is high, but the reward is great. Almost everybody in the world of One Piece is isolated. Everyone is literally on islands. Many of these islands are tiny and shrinking, as we have seen in Water 7. The level of technology available to the average person is extremely low. And these islands, many of which are tiny, are surrounded by deadly seas with unpredictable climates and weather patterns, filled with sea monsters, pirates, corrupt marines. And to top it all off, ultimately the world government itself is pervasive in the world. It's the world government, it's everywhere. And the world government solely exists to uphold the power of the gods of the One Piece world, the celestial dragons who, to us, are obviously not gods at all, and are people who have stolen the freedom of others to get a little bit more power for themselves. Like the sea monsters, pirates are often powerful, with crazy devil fruit powers, monstrous strength. They're often huge. Pirates are said to not play by the rules, so often pirates will take advantage of this to do evil acts. And all these deeply cynical forces on the world cause some really big problems on these islands, besides not being able to pursue any dreams if they involve adventure. Countless times we've been showing that the people in this world, due to these structures of power, suffer from hunger, poverty, and a deep sense of powerlessness and meaninglessness in their lives. So the person who's going to change the world is Monkey D. Luffy. He is ultimately out seeking true freedom. When he becomes a pirate, he leaves everything behind and desiring to find a crew that is also searching for their own impossible dream. He wants an adventure. He wants to become like the person who saved him, Red-Haired Shanks. And on that path to become a great pirate, Luffy will find the One Piece, the ultimate treasure that is everything for this world. And once he finds the treasure, he can use his status as the Pirate King and the mysterious power and potential of the One Piece to bring his dream to fruition, to reach the end of his dream. So this force of despair that holds down the world, Luffy has felt that himself. So he desires to go out on an adventure. And he knows he can't achieve his dream on his own, so he wants a pirate crew. And the first person he meets is Zoro, who is being executed despite being what Luffy observes to be a good person. After that, the next person to officially join the crew is Usopp, someone who wants to give meaning to lives through stories and impossible sounding possibilities. And next, Luffy finds a chef, a person who does not accept starvation, who does not accept hunger, who does not accept people hoarding food at the expense of others. And then at the end of Luffy's short journey across the East Blue, he finally manages to save Nami and have her become one of the Straw Hats. Nami lost her freedom and is imprisoned, forced to carry out her dreams in service of someone else. This, of course, is Arlong Park, ruled by the nefarious fishman pirate Arlong. And Arlong is mimicking the structure of the celestial dragons, the gods and creators of this world. He takes their money, he takes their safety, he takes their food, and he uses this to create the oppressive structure of Arlong Park, which is a prison not only for Nami, but also Arlong himself, because Arlong Park itself is a stand-in for Sabaody Park, when Arlong was much younger, he'd swim to the surface and see Sabaody Park. And that became part of whatever his dream was, but his dream fell apart when he succumbed to the cynicism and nihilism in the world, where he thinks that he can become more free, more powerful by taking from others, by taking other people's freedom and using them. The structure that takes Nami's freedom mirrors Mary Joie and the Celestial Dragons, Pangea Castle, the Empty Throne. All of this stuff is an illusion, a structure to give meaning to somebody's life at the expense of everybody else, and so that original meaning itself is not true. So the way that these structures came into place is that people were trying to create meaning for themselves in a meaningless world. So the very reason for these oppressive structures' existence is because somebody tried to find meaning in a meaningless world. They believed that if they did something, that it would give them meaning. But as we see with Luffy, that's not really about finding meaning, it's about creating meaning. Creating meaning by truly discovering your dream and pursuing it with your entire life's purpose. And Luffy constantly shows the level of conviction that he has for his dream. His conviction is that he's willing to die trying to actualize his dream, to make it a reality. And a shallow counter to this is, why is Luffy constantly putting his life on the line for others if he's trying to have the conviction to achieve his own dream, to become the most free person there is in the world? I'm not saying that's his dream, but clearly his dream is not possible unless he is the most free person in the world, the Pirate King, the person that finds the One Piece. It's because Luffy knows that if other people aren't free, that he can never actually truly be free. And so if he's actually desiring to achieve true freedom, that his conviction says he must be willing to take on the pain of others, that he must be willing to die for others. Because if they're not free, he can never truly be free himself. So near the end of the battle with Arlong, Luffy finally figures out how to save Nami. He must destroy this oppressive structure that imprisons her. He stops fighting Arlong himself and instead focuses on destroying the structure of Arlong Park, bringing all that power that Arlong had accumulated in seeking his own freedom. Luffy destroys that, which is also a favor to Arlong himself, because at no point was Arlong going to keep living his life like this and somehow become free. If Arlong ever achieves freedom, it has to first involve destroying Arlong Park. Arlong thought he found some meaning to this meaningless, cynical, nihilistic world, but instead imprisoned himself and imprisoned others and ultimately brought himself further and further away from freedom. And we see Luffy willing to destroy pretty much anything if it means ultimately bringing freedom. We see Luffy willing to destroy the Baratier. We even see Luffy willing to destroy himself in the Alabasta arc. Obviously, we see Luffy absolutely level Enies Lobby and officially declare war on the world government, which means that he's like, I'm going to destroy you, the world government. Suck it. Obviously, there's the prophecy of Fishman Island, where Luffy is going to be the person that destroys Fishman Island. And in times when we see the villain themselves as the kind of like structural core to the power that's robbing people's freedom, that if he can just destroy them, that means the structure that is imprisoning people breaks itself. We see this when he breaks Gecko Moria. We see this when he smashes Doflamingo at the pinnacle of Dressrosa. And we see this when he gets rid of Kaido in Wano by smashing him deep into the ground, where he maybe gets dissolved in lava. And we're going to get into some light spoilers for anime-only viewers. When the Straw Hats get to Elbaf, they get trapped in this miniature world for a giant, but what appears to be like a pretty big area for regular humans. And when they realize what this structure is, Luffy's like, okay, I'm going to break it down, and bust through the walls, and is like, sorry, I got an adventure to go on. And then when we get even further into Elbaf, we see the Harley text, where we learn that Joy Boy failed at bringing the world to its end. See, Joy Boy was a previous user of the sun god Nika fruit, and Luffy awakens that same version of Nika, the sun god of laughter. And in the Harley text, in the third world, which is the future that's to come, the sun god of laughter brings the whole world to its end to finally have something meet again. So if you're interested in finding out who's going to meet, watch my Harley text explained video. But we see that Luffy is even prophesized to destroy the world. So why does he want to destroy the world? Well, it's the same exact reason that he destroys Arlong Park. Luffy seeks liberation. He seeks to become the most free person in the world, and he knows that becoming the most free person in the world is completely impossible if anybody else is not free. And so ultimately, the world itself is the oppressive structure that is limiting everybody's freedom. That the world itself is a poison to your own freedom, a poison to your own dream. See, Luffy himself is a nihilist. He believes that there is no inherent meaning to the world, but he also believes that we should create our own meaning, that we should have our own dreams, and that meaning comes from throwing yourselves at those dreams, despite knowing that those dreams might be impossible to achieve. See, there's two sides to the coin of nihilism. Well, there's actually many sides, but for the simplicity of this video, there's two sides. There's a cynical nihilism to where there is no meaning in the world, so everything is pointless. There's no meaning to life. Why are any of us born? It doesn't even matter. Yikes, right? That's a scary, scary version of nihilism. And that's one of the types of nihilism that we see in One Piece. It's one of the answers that people come up with when they're faced with this oppressive world. Most significantly, we see this type of nihilism in Hody Jones. But then there's Luffy's version of nihilism, one that is optimistic. More optimistic than any type of inherent meaning that somebody could come up with. That there is a power in creating your own meaning. And then there's the Celestial Dragons, and there's Emu, the creator of the world. All signs point to Emu or the world government or Celestial Dragons trying to create meaning for themselves by making themselves gods, by placing themselves above humanity and being able to pursue their own freedom separately. And maybe they don't even need to play by the freedom rules where you can't be free if everybody's free if you just mark them as something different than you by dehumanizing the rest of the world. So like Arlong, they create a structure, a world where everybody is isolated, where they have to give the majority of their needs to a very, very small class of people. So One Piece ultimately says that this owner class of people steals from the vast majority of the world to create a structure that ultimately attempts to bring a very small group of people closer to what they believe to be freedom, but all of that is an illusion. And like Arlong, is ultimately sinking them deeper and deeper into a hollow meaninglessness that can never lead to true freedom. And so like Arlong Park, Luffy will destroy the world, and destroying that world destroys the shroud encompassing the world and raising the true forbidden sun so that everyone can embrace it equally. That is the true freedom that Luffy seeks. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like or a comment or support me in any one of those ways. I also have a Big Dad Pirates community Discord that I'd love for you to be a part of. I'll see you next time.